So what made you want to be a councilman?
Oh gosh. Um, well, for one, I hate politics. I am not a political person. Um, no, I retired. Gosh, it's been almost 9 years since I retired, and I love this community. And about 5 years ago, oh gosh, no, I've been in office for 5 years. So anyway, way back 2015. 2014, actually, there was an election here in town, and there was a lot of mudslinging. There was a lot of negativity. A lot
Yeah.
of people. I don't know if you recall that or not, but it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't good for the city. When people are looking at bringing their business to a community, they look at things like that.
Mm.
And is this a community or is it a city divided? And
Yeah.
I really wasn't happy with all the mudslinging and the negative connotations that were being thrown about and that kind of stuff. And I was reading the paper and lamenting to my wife and said, "This is crazy. Somebody needs to do something to fix this." And
Yeah.
my wife looked at me and said, "Well, I really don't see you doing anything." And I said, "You're right." And I've always been the type of person that does. I don't sit back and let somebody else have to take care of the problem. If I see a problem, I try to take care of it myself.
Yeah.
So I thought, you're right. I think I will. So I started coming to city council meetings, and I started attending the budget retreats, and I started attending all the things that are open to the public. For the city, I never talked to anybody. I never spoke. I just sat in the back of the room and wondered, what was going on, and learning exactly what's happening in the city. And what I found was there's actually good things happening in the city, and
Really?
all it takes is some people to really want to be involved to make it happen and bring it to fruition, and not let the naysayers take over.
Yeah.
The people whose glass is always half empty.
Yeah.
My glass is always 3/4 full, so it's I'm a very lucky person. So when it comes to life, and so I decided that I did it for a while, and then I thought, okay, I want to run for office, and so I contacted. Then he was in the legislature. He had been a city council member, Sonny Borelli.
Okay.
He's now our state senator. I had contact with Sonny, just in a roundabout way. His girlfriend used to work for me.
Oh, really?
She was my public information officer, so I knew Sonny through her. And so I contacted Sonny and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of running for office, but I'm not sure how to get started, and nobody knows me." So it just so happens that the next day the city here does a thing called coffee with the city mayor, or the city manager and the mayor.
Yeah.
And at that time, the mayor was Mark Nixon and the city manager was Charlie Cassens. And so I went to the coffee. Sonny was there, and he introduced me to them. And I told him I was thinking about running for office and just wasn't sure where to go and what to do. And so they said, "Well, here's the brief rundown, but let's talk at another time." So I came into the office and I had interviews with both of them on what their positions were and how they felt about the city and that kind of stuff and what they did. And then it just went from there. And then I continued on. And the biggest challenge that I thought I would have was when I decided to run for office, nobody knew me.
Yeah.
I worked for the California Highway Patrol for 30 years. I was the commander of the office over in Needles. But we lived here in Lake Havasu.
Yeah.
So we thoroughly enjoyed living in Lake Havasu. And so when the time came to make a decision on where my career was going to go, we decided to retire and stay here in Lake Havasu. So I retired. And so the only people that really knew me in Havasu were the officers from the Highway Patrol office in Needles.
Yeah.
That had met me a time or two. I knew Chief Doyle. I had met him. He's our police chief here in Lake Havasu. I had met him through the Chiefs Association when I was the commander in Needles. But other than that, people here in town, my neighbors knew who I was and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But most people didn't know me, so I went out and started knocking door to door.
Oh yeah,
And
do the door-to-door
I
canvassing.
did, and I walked and I knocked and I talked to people and I said, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about, and what do you think the issues are?" And so, long story short, it went on, and I continued to come to the meetings, and then the primary election came along, and I was elected in the primary.
Nice.
So I continued on, and then I served my first term. One of the things I said was, "This is small town stuff. We don't need to be spending a whole lot of money."
Yeah.
So I didn't take any campaign contributions from anyone.
Oh really?
I refused to accept, and I had people say, "Oh, they want to write me a check or give me some money." I said, "Nope, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of money." So I spent $2,400,
Oh wow.
and I spent all that money locally. I had a local person here develop a website for me. I made a Facebook page, and I did that myself. I bought all my campaign materials from our couple different printing companies here in town.
Oh wow.
So all my signs, all my cards, all my stuff were all printed through the different companies here. I spread it around to different companies here in Lake Havasu.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, we'll see what happens. And then after I got elected, I saved all that because I said, well, we'll see what happens when this term is up and if I'm going to run again.
Yeah.
So I did that first term. And then last year, I ran again. I decided to run for a second term. And on that election, I spent a total of $67.
Wow.
I used all my campaign materials from the time before. Once again, I did not accept any campaign contributions. And I was elected again in the primary.
Wow,
So-
that's awesome. That's really awesome because like me studying a lot of the stuff on politics and everything, typically campaign contributions is one of the biggest key factors, and to try to be able to get elected without that is always been more of an extreme challenge than with things like that.
Sure.
And I like that the idea because it seems like it's like you feel like you have the capacity to make a change and you're seeking to capitalize and actually do so.
Correct. I've never worked in Lake Havasu. I haven't held a job here. I haven't owned a business here. I'm strictly here for the people of Lake Havasu. And so I have no agenda of my own other than I have kids and grandkids here. I want this to be a wonderful city for my kids and grandkids to grow up in.
Yeah, exactly. And by especially keeping everything local too, that shows the interest and the intent to really do good by the people here and everything.
It's very important to me to keep everything local.
Yeah.
Costs me a little bit more. It does. Because there's things that you can do on the internet that can be cheaper.
Yeah.
But I felt it was important to stay local.
Yeah. And it doesn't hold that same value too, especially doing the door-to-door canvassing, really introduce yourself to the community and mitigate yourself in it.
I still have people, sometimes they'll see me in the grocery store and they'll say, "Hey, I voted for you." I'm like, "Thank you." And they say, do you remember me? And I'm like, "Oh, not really." It's like, "You knocked on my door like 6 years ago."